Hello and welcome to the Renaissance Geek. My name is Joseph. I'm finally getting to my RuPaul Drag Race episode. Apparently I'm doing every 3 episodes altogether, so this one will be episodes 5, 6, and 7? I don't remember. Basically Snatch Game, which had the Madonna. Then you have the Wizards, the Wizard of Oz one, and then you have the Politics one. So it's Friday, so I don't know about the upcoming Monday's thing. Sorry, looking at this and the stocking cap was all off. Yes, I'm wearing a little stocking cap. Edward crocheted this on and made it. So my hair is a mess. We're on this afternoon. It's Friday morning, and this afternoon Jeannie Koch, Missy Gaetano, and I are driving down to Tucson for Marshilla Rockwell's and Jeff Marriott's wedding tomorrow, Saturday morning, because, you know, that's what we do. They're good friends of ours, and 2, you know, great writers, partnering up in both marriage and business. So anyways, continuing on, let's get over to Snatch Game, RuPaul's Snatch Game. I wrote things down, so that's what I'm looking at. Let's see, Acid Betty was Nancy Grace. Oh, real quick, for those of you who don't know Snatch Game is basically a parody of Match Game from the 60s and 70s. The drag queens have to impersonate a famous person as their character, and then, you know, RuPaul does this. You know, there's 2 contestants, and RuPaul asks the questions, and they make, you know, fun of the celebrity they're impersonating, as well as, you know, making fun of this joke. So anyways, so Acid Betty was Nancy Grace. Bob the drag queen was Uzo Aduba, who is the crazy-eyed woman in Orange is the New Black, and then she switched to Carol Channing the last third of it. Chi Divine did Eartha Kitt. Derek Barry did Britney Spears. Shocker, because, you know, that's what he does for a living. He impersonates Britney Spears. Kim Chi did Kim Jong Un. And that is a made-up character. This is the first time and someone's done a made-up character on Snatch Game. The made-up character is basically Kim Jong Un is the sister of Kim Jong Il, or Un, and anyways, basically the North Korean dictator. So Kim Chi said, it's like, well, if the North Korean dictator had a sister, that's who I am. Naomi Smalls did Tiffany Pollard, and Robbie Turner did Diana Verland, who is the original, one of the original editors of Vogue. Had the hair and the big pompadour and high forehead. And then Thorgy Thor did Michael Jackson. So, Acid Betty as Nancy Grace. Well, let's start with Thorgy Thor as Michael Jackson. This is not the first time a drag queen did a male, and it worked. I mean, he had the mannerisms down, he had the little twitches down, it worked, I liked it. It wasn't the best. It wasn't like Little Richard from the season before, but it wasn't horrible. Robbie Turner doing Diana, the editor from Vogue, horrible. Horrible. RuPaul was feeding him stuff to play off of, and she was not getting it. You know, RuPaul says, it's like, so what is it going to be the next trend, you know, in fashion next year? And she's like, I don't know. You are a Vogue fashion editor, or was a Vogue fashion. You know what the trends are, even if you make it up, saying, you know, assless pantyhose. Something. Naomi Smalls is Tiffany Pollard. For those of you who watched, unfortunately I did, was, you know, Flavor Flav's I Want a Girlfriend reality shows. Tiffany Pollard was called New York, and she was way over the top and cussed a lot and was really over the top. Naomi Smalls wasn't. She was completely boring and slow and tiring. Kimchi is Kim Jong Un, who is the sister of the North Korean dictator, who was freaking hilarious. Oh my gosh, I would say she probably won. I would say she won the Snatch Game. My personal opinion, she won. I mean, one of the questions was, is like, Sally's sister always keeps blank blank in her purse. So, Kimchi, as Kim Jong Un said, basically, weapons of ass destruction. And then whenever RuPaul would say that was wrong or that was an incorrect, and she would just go and then point at RuPaul. Loved it. Even though it was a made-up character and a made-up celebrity, still loved it. Derek Barry is Britney Spears. She was good, but then, like I said, that's what she does for a living. It's not unreasonable because, Chad Michaels did Cher in 3 different outfits in the Snatch Game during her season. But, she still did Cher, and Chad Michaels is known for Cher. Derek Barry is known for Britney Spears, so not unimaginable about her doing that. Chi-Chi DeVine is Eartha Kitt. She did a decent job. Not a good job, a decent job. She had a couple things that I liked. When she said, "Give me a bath," she basically put up her leg and started licking herself, and did the whole, kitty thing. She brought in a ball of yarn and was playing with it. That was very cute. That was really cute. Bob the Drag Queen as Uzo Abuba, the crazy eye from Orange is the New Black. Hilarious. Loved it. She just, had the crazy eye. She went over the top, as Bob the Drag Queen always goes over the top. I liked the Carol Channing. Don't get me wrong. She did a good Carol Channing, big black drag queen being Carol Channing, had the voice down, had the mannerisms down. I didn't like the fact that she did it so late. So she really couldn't play with it as she did with her first character. If you are going to do 2 characters, or even 3 as Chad Michael does, make sure that they each have an equal time. So Chad Michaels did a third of the Snatch Game as each different outfit. But this one was basically Crazy Eyes for 2/3 and, Carol Channing the last third. Acid Betty's Nancy Grace, horrible. She didn't have the southern drawl. She didn't even have the right wig. She looked more like Sia if Sia put the wig on right and not covered her eyes or covered her face. Maybe she would have been better if she covered her face. But she didn't talk. Her biggest thing is that she kept on talking about the reefer addicts. Nancy Grace does about the reefer addicts, but she always talks about her kids and then doing all this other stuff. RuPaul even made a comment about her being on Dancing with the Stars, and Acid Betty just didn't even say anything about it. Didn't even play up. I mean, when RuPaul has to feed you jokes, and you still don't get it, gone. So, speaking of horrible looks, the main runway for this episode, they had to do 30 years of iconic looks of Madonna. You have frickin' 30 years to do the iconic looks of Madonna. 30 frickin' years. And there's 8 queens left. And what do? Half of them did the frickin' geisha kimono thing. 4 queens, kimonos. Really? Really? I would have done when Madonna was doing Marilyn Monroe in the pink dress, I would have done something from Evita. My other half, Edward, he said he would have done something from Dick Tracy. And he actually said I would have done blank from Dick Tracy, which would have been freaking hilarious if, Queen would show up as a blank face. That would have been great. But really, 4? Doesn't make sense. There's so many different things. Acid Betty did the bedtime stories with the doves coming out of her stomach. Bob the Drag Queen did the Boy Scout one. Let's see. It was Derek, Kimchi, Naomi Smalls. Oh, gosh, I can't remember now. I didn't write it down because that's why I can't remember. So anyways, irked me. I just can't believe that, queens would do that. Kimchi, I would understand. Asian, geisha, kimono, kind of stereotypical, but they're drag queens. Everything by a drag queen is stereotypical, right? So the person who got kicked off was Acid Betty, which I was okay with. And then I really got upset at Acid Betty when Acid Betty basically, when they do the little talking to the producer afterwards, and says like, well, I never really cared for Snatch Game. And I was like, well, yeah, you didn't care for it because you didn't do a good job, and you didn't do a good job because you didn't put an effort in it. So, bye-bye Acid Betty. Was actually looking forward to that. So, next episode was the Wizards of Drag. Now, the Wizards of Drag was basically the Wizard of Oz, but they were paired with one of the Little Women of L.A. So a little woman was also paired with a drag queen, and they had to dress up as their particular character. So Bob the Drag Queen was Glinda the Good Witch, and so was the Little Woman. Chi-Chi Divine was Dorothy Gale. Derek Barry was the Tin Woodsman. Kim Chi was the Wicked Witch. Naomi Smalls was the Scarecrow. Robbie Turner was the Cowardly Lion, and Thorgy Thor was a citizen of Oz. Excuse me while I get a drink of water. So not only did they have to make up themselves as these characters, they also had to make up their little person as these characters as well, and basically have a mini-me, so to speak. And then, as a twist, because that's what they like to do in these reality shows, they had to do an interpretive dance to coincide with their character. So the interpretive dances were okay because they really don't show them. The Glinda the Good Witch was which was Bob the Drag Queen. Bob the Drag Queen, they made a mistake because Bob the Drag Queen worked on his Little Woman so much that he really didn't have time to put the makeup on. So when they questioned him about that, why his makeup wasn't as good or as polished, what Bob the Drag Queen should have said is like, well, I was going for the Wiz version instead of the Wizard of Oz. And I think that would have played off better to the judges than just saying is like, well, I didn't have time. Don't use that excuse when you're in a competition. You try to play off and move it around to where you don't sound like you're don't care. So, Chi-Chi Divine, Dorothy Gale, swimsuit with fabric around the waist. Derek Barry as a Tin Woodsman was okay. I agree with Michelle as these giant things on their shoulders didn't make much sense except for hey, that's supposed to be something. It's supposed to be Tin Woodsman in something. I'll make up a word. That's my podcast. I could do what I want, right? Naomi Smalls as the Scarecrow was great. That was very avant-garde look. It was, the interpretive dance was wonderful. What little that they showed of it, that was a good thing. Robbie Turner as the Cowardly Lion. Kimchi did better, in the first episode, when Kimchi did the dog one, to celebrate the 100th episode. Thorgy Thor as a citizen of Oz actually looked good. I really liked Thorgy Thor's whole ensemble. It was very wicked. I think a cat is getting sick in the background. So I'll clean that up after I'm done. So the person who got kicked off when this one was Robbie Turner. So didn't lose much about it. She was good. Don't get me wrong. She was good. She was just there. At this point in time, that was seven queens left. So at this point in time, you need to really step up. Like for instance, Naomi Smalls, who won the episode and really stepped up and really stood out. And that's when you're halfway through the competition, you really need to bring it. You need to bring it up the whole way. But I'm talking about is like you really need to bring it out there. And then the last episode was the politician one. RuPaul kind of irked me because she was saying for the first time ever a drag queen is running for president. No, it's not the first time ever because you did it during Fifi O'Hara, Sharon Michaels, Latrice Royals, and Chad Michaels season. So it's not the first time, it's the second time that a drag queen is running for president, quote unquote president. They didn't do the debate like they did in their season, so that was a disappointment. What they did is they did shady ads, which were fun. But at the same time, I can't tell you more about that aside from fun. I will tell you the one thing I forgot. I did a little note on the little mini challenge. They had the models from Andrew Christian, and each individual drag queen had to. RuPaul would say something about a model, and they would say if they were on the top bunk or on the bottom bunk. Now there was a bunk bed there, so that way and they would have to say top and bottom bunk. But of course, we all know what they really were implying. So after they did that, and the queens had to decide which one, top or bottom bunk. And then after they did that, they had to they got everybody together and they decided that who was going to win this thing. And so RuPaul told all the models, like, okay, now everybody get on the bunk bed. Do you prefer the top bunk or the bottom bunk? And everybody but one person got on the bottom bunk. And RuPaul made a comment. It's like, really? Only one top bunk person in all of West Hollywood? Shocker. More bottoms in every town in this world than tops everywhere. I mean, which is not a surprise. Not a surprise at all. No. So, I'm not going to say anything more about that because I'm sure most of you don't want to know what my bunk bed choice is, but I'm not going to say it. None of your business. So, Thorgy Thor was the one kicked off. I was actually happy about that because when they were doing the PSA Shady Politics commercials, he was so scatterbrained. Was not focused at all. She thinks she's better than what she really is. And it was starting to annoy me. So I was very happy about Thorgy Thor being kicked off. Which only leaves Bob the Drag Queen being the last New York Queen. So it will be interesting to see what happens in this upcoming episode. Yes, I ran a little long because, like I said, I want to keep these around 15 minutes, and they were coming up to 18. So that's my RuPaul's Drag Race upkeep right now. I will try to do these weekly. I know I'm getting busy. I'm always busy. Like I said, I'm going to be in Tucson this weekend for a wedding, for Marcy and Jeff's wedding. So next week, what do I have going on next week? I have Joshua Tree as always. Edward and my anniversary is next week sometime. I don't know. Facebook will tell me when it is. I have no idea when it is. I just know it's the end of April. And speaking of Joshua Tree, don't forget to get your Phoenix Mercury Pride tickets. They start at $12. Please, 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 we need to sell. If we sell 200 tickets, then the Phoenix Mercury will make a PSA for this. Starting at $12. Please come. Or just buy a ticket. If you don't live here, just buy a ticket because, that's twice at Starbucks. All right? Thank you, and you take care. Bye-bye.